What is it about the overlanding thing that got you hooked on it?
I think the first thing was just sleeping in a car on a beach. That was in Australia. I just had a 90 series Prado. It had a 2-inch lift and some lockers, and I made like a wooden bed in the back, and I just found out about beach driving basically. So I found out that you could drive on the beach, stop, sleep, and keep going. So that was the first thing. And then when I got my 4Runner back in a few years ago, we just started doing some trails, not necessarily overland, but just like proper, just hardcore trails that we just broke our trucks and we fixed them back up. And I think the mix of all these two things, it just made sense for me to just make myself a nice truck that I can go explore with.
Warning. The 4x4 Canada podcast contains discussion about exploring mountains, camping beside lakes, and enjoying the outdoors. Guests also talk about jumping race trucks side by side, racing 1,000 horsepower rigs across mud pits, and jumping monster trucks over stacks of buses. None of this is for the faint of heart. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for bringing out your inner adrenaline junkie or making you want to get out there and explore the back roads from coast to coast. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for broken parts due to jumping your vehicle, hitting mud poles too hard, crossing deep streams, and doing other dumb shit. However, we will take credit for inspiring you to explore mountaintops, spend quality time outdoors with your friends, or meeting new like-minded people, and most importantly of all, following your dreams. Hey everybody, it's Wes from the 4x4 Canada podcast.
And I'm Arthur. I'm the co-owner of Freeland Industries in Quebec City.
Super excited to have you here tonight, Arthur. We're going to get into it, and I know you guys make, for lack of better terms right now, you guys make bumpers and sliders and skid plate snap for a variety of vehicles. And I want to get into it because there's nobody like you guys in Central Canada. I just want to give a shout out to our episode last week with Gretchen. Most of you guys know Gretchen from the Story Till Now. She's on quite a few of Sean's videos, but she's actually got a life outside of the Story Till Now. And we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about her fascination with being prepared. And we spent quite a bit of time talking about that, first aid kits and get home bags, etc. But we also talked about her wheeling that she's done with Sean from Story Till Now, as well as without Sean from Story Till Now. She actually did a trip up to Tuktoyaktuk in the winter. Can you imagine that, Arthur? Why the hell would somebody go to Tuktoyaktuk in the wintertime?
That's a good question.
But having said that, next week, we have Dwayne from Just Cheap Adventures, who did the exact same thing. So many of you guys know Dwayne from Just Cheap Adventures. He's got that white Rubicon. He's had tracks on. He's been on the show a couple times. He's coming back next week, and we're going to talk about his trip this last winter up into northern Yukon in the middle of winter. Nuts to me. I don't get it at all. I hibernate in the winter, each of their own. So once again, we have Arthur from Freeland Industries. And they, as I mentioned earlier, they're a Quebec company. They make bumpers and sliders and all that stuff. Before we get into it, our listeners can find you at freelandco.ca or Freeland_Industries on Facebook and Instagram, and Freeland_CO on TikTok. Basically, if you Google Freeland Industries, you'll find you.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So basically, as we mentioned, you guys make body armor. Can you give us your little elevator pitch?
Yeah, basically, it all started when I went to Australia for a year, about 8 years ago. And I just fell in love with overlanding, right? I saw all these Land Cruisers, these flatbed trucks, all these things. And then after that, I started university. I would always liked designing stuff, doing stuff on a computer, CAD design, etc. And when COVID hit, there was like 2 weeks where we couldn't do anything, right? So I had a 4Runner, I had a 3rd-gen 4Runner, and I just figured, hey, why not design something for my truck? That's what we did. I say we because I do this with my brother now. And I just started designing stuff for off-road trucks, starting with Toyotas. And I just figured I'd put all my experience in designing stuff and being here in the North in Canada, putting all of this into designing products that work for Canadian customers, for Canadian trucks, and for the winter. because we're in Quebec City, right? There's in the province of Quebec, there's not that many companies that offer good products.
Yeah.
So we said, let's try to offer products that are as good as American one or one from BC, and make sure people don't have to choose between quality and price because it's local, right? You don't want to choose between a local product and a good product. So that was our goal, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time looking over your pictures and videos I've seen of your product, and it all looks like top quality product. There's no doubt about that. And you got some nice designs on there where it's a good looking product, but it also looks to be a good, strong product as well, too. So you started off with your third gen and basically built your bumpers and sliders and all that stuff. And then you've expanded to some of the other models, going out into your third gen Tacomas and some Tundras and stuff like that. So basically, you
That's
guys
right.
are gone from your Forerunner to the third gen Tacomas and second gen Tacomas, etc. You got some Tundra products, and you just been slowly expanding that line. And what have you found to be some of your more popular products you guys are selling?
First of all, we chose Toyota because I think that's a no-brainer in the overland world. Everyone has a Toyota and they're super reliable. So if we can put good products on them, that's a good thing. So we find that all the basic overland products that we make sell the most. So like the small middle bumper that we make, all the roof racks, all these things. Those are products that are nice to put on your truck when you're just getting started, right? So obviously you're not going to put a full rear bumper with the dual swing outs when you got no lift and no wheels,
Yeah.
right? Those sell well, but we also have and those are the products that we keep in stock, but we have a ton of products that we don't necessarily keep in stock, but people are super happy to buy when we make them because they're a bit more specialized, let's say like a super high clearance rear bumper with dual swing outs and all the good stuff on it.
Yeah, I was looking particularly because I have a third gen Tacoma myself, and I'm looking through there, and I noticed that you've got like basically three different versions of the front bumper for the Tacoma. You got your little mini one, which is what I prefer. You keep part of your stock bumper, and
Yep.
I just got classic stock look, and you can still hide a winch in there, etc. Up to your complete bumper, and then you still got your bars that go up around the headlights and stuff like that. So you got lots of different options depending on how far people want to go. And as you mentioned, the high clearance rear bumpers, and you guys do sliders as well, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And then of course the roof racks on the Forerunners and such as well too. So you guys are doing some other Toyota vehicles that may not be as common as your typical Tacoma and the Forerunner. You've got some of the Land Cruiser stuff, and you got some of the Tundra stuff as well too.
Yeah. So the way we work, usually I guess the way it started, I made products for my vehicle first. And then
Yep.
we just went around and saw and asked people what kind of products did they want and stuff like that. And so basically when we don't have a product available and someone asks us if we can make it, we make it if we feel like it could become a product. So
Yep.
we don't do custom work really. And when we do custom work, it's going to become a product later on. It just happened that sometimes people with like an 80 series Land Cruiser came up to us and said, "Oh, I want to do the whole thing. I want to do the front, the rear, the sliders, the tubes, the skid plates, everything." And they just leave the truck at our shop for a few weeks or a few months. That's where we get the opportunity to make these products. But yeah, we basically choose ahead of time what we're going to do. But sometimes just people ask us and we say, "Oh, yes, let's take this type
Well,
of truck."
I noticed you've got a couple of other vehicles on your site that, and probably the same thing, somebody's asked you, hey, can you do this? And then you develop something that can go into a production run later on, such as the Ranger and the Canyon
Yeah.
bumpers.
These are specials because there are Toyotas and there are other mid-sized trucks. And the Ranger was, funny enough, the Ranger was one of the, I think, three first bumpers we made was a Ranger, a first gen Ranger for one of my friends. So it stayed, but yeah, we tried to widen our offering, but sometimes it's hard because there's so many type of trucks and you got to choose.
Yeah, totally. And you got to go with what's more popular in regards to what's going to sell for you, obviously,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
We're getting into bigger trucks now. You probably see it yourself, but all the big quarter ton, 3/4 ton and 1 ton trucks like the Ford F-350 or the Rams, So we're getting into these trucks for the front bumpers, for the rock rails, rock sliders, because we're basically doing flatbeds for these trucks as well. So once we get
Yeah.
one in the shop, we can do that.
You can strip it down and go from there. Yeah. That's actually
Yeah.
something else I did want to talk about was the flatbeds. It's something that you guys have recently got into is building flatbed for those full-size trucks.
Yeah. So one of my, as I said at the beginning, I think I fell in love with overlanding in Australia, and over there it's flatbed world. You got flatbeds,
Yeah.
you get canopies on top of it, on top of the flatbeds, and it's amazing products. At some point, I wanted to make myself a build or make a build for the company. I think my dream platform was a second gen Tundra with a single cab and a long bed. I figured I want a short truck, but I want a V8, I want a full size truck, and I want a long bed. And I wanted to design a flatbed for the truck. So that's what we did. And from there, the goal was to just promote this product. So people started asking us about the same product, but for bigger trucks. And one of the things that we did on the Tundra on my truck is a full size canopy, but this isn't the most effective way to do overlanding in Canada, because if you got winters, a canopy won't be good because it's all aluminum and it's gonna. So people started asking us for flatbed for the campers actually. So that's what we're doing right now as well.
I'll be flat honestly, that is one of my dreams is to go flatbed and put like a flatbed style 4-wheel camper on it. And that way you've got more storage room with the flat deck and the pop top with a 4-wheel camper, or one of the other makes it camper manufacturers that make a flatbed option. I think that's the best way to go myself.
Yeah. You got so much room. And I don't think I realized that before I used mine. Mine has, of course, the 4-foot canopy. It's got 4 boxes. It's got a real drawer. It's amazing. Everything can have its own room. It's so usable. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
So listeners can go check out some pictures of your flat deck stuff on Instagram. That's probably going to be the best bet to see, photos and videos of the flat deck. Is check out the Instagram at Freeland Industries. And you guys have a lot of stuff going on your Instagram. You guys keep up on it, which is really nice. And a little bit behind the works. Yeah, a little bit behind the work stuff too, or behind the scene stuff as well too. So that's really good that way. I got to admit, you mentioned about going to a full-size truck, and I've just started driving a full-size Chevy for work. And then I drive to work in my Tacoma, and I hop into a full-size 3/4 ton, and I drive that for 8 hours a day. And I'm like, my God, this is what horsepower feels like.
Right. Yeah. Kind of hard to go back once you get into bigger trucks. You're like, okay, that's so fun to drive. It's so big. You get so much power.
And then I hop into my Tacoma at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh my God, this thing's so small and upright. I feel every bump. And
yeah. Yeah, I remember I think the first time I drove on a beach in Canada was with my 3rd gen 4Runner. And this summer I went back to the same beach with my Tundra with a 5.8 V8, 5.7 V8. I could go twice as fast. I was just like, okay, that's the solution right there.
Yeah. I've always thought for BC, Tacoma size vehicle, mid-sized vehicles, whether it be a Canyon or a Ranger or whatever, is an ideal just because of the tight trails we have here, and especially with the mountains and that. But man, I've been driving this full size for a month now, and I'm like, horsepower and comfort, and it's smooth. Oh, I don't know.
It just depends where you go, right? If you just need a big truck to carry a lot of stuff, you're gonna need a bigger one. But right, you need a smaller truck if you're gonna do actual trails and rock crawling.
Yeah, exactly. Having said that, I was out with some guys this past weekend, and they're on 46-inch tall tires and running in the snow and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I needed about 6 different vehicles to do what I want.
That's the ultimate goal.
But I guess I got to play the lottery to win it. So going back to the flat deck, I got a little bit sidetracked there, but going back to the flat deck, you've got the slide out drawer at the back, and then you also have storage underneath. Do you, like on the sides as well, or?
Yeah, so the one the type of flatbed we offer is, I'd say, like a typical Australian style flatbed. So let's say for a full size, it's got the flat deck, of course. It's got
Yep.
two front side boxes, two rear side boxes, and a rear drawer that's about 60 inches. And then you can do pretty much any size canopy on it. So if you've got a 9-foot flatbed with an 8-foot camper, you can have a 12-inch canopy, which only that gives you so much more room.
Yep.
And yeah, so every inch of the flatbed is either a surface to put something on or a storage room.
Aluminum or steel?
It's all aluminum. The only thing that is steel are the frame brackets. So all the flatbed frame is aluminum. But since these flatbeds are going to be on the road for many years, I figured that I just put the other frame brackets in steel, and we get to make sure we don't have a galvanic corrosion between the steel and the aluminum. We make sure we put a coating in between, and everything is powder coated anyway, so it's not a problem. But makes it super light for the sides.
Yeah. And then your bumpers and sliders and all that, they're all steel, right?
Yeah. So right now, all of our bumpers are steel. We do offer some aluminum rock sliders. Okay. I'm not sure yet if I know aluminum rock sliders sound really good, but just like any other company, we won't be able to say lift your truck from there. It's not going to hold on. Basically, we do both, but mostly we do steel. And the only thing you need to worry about for steel is rust. So what we do for all of our steel products, other than the powder coat, we have we sandblast the product, and we do a primer, an epoxy primer before the powder coat. So we make sure it lasts a long time during winters.
Yeah, that's one of the things with Canada, as you well know, that if you're going to powder coat something, it's got to be a good quality powder coat, and it's got to be primed, because we see so many of those road armor bumpers and Smitty builds stuff and all that all around. They're just rusting through. The fact that you guys actually do a primer, which a lot of companies don't, and the fact that you put a primer in there at the start is a huge thing.
Yeah, and it's a bit annoying because powder coat gets a bad rep because a lot of companies, they just powder coat over the part. The part won't be sandblasted. It's going to be full of mill scale. So the powder coat won't even hold, and they don't put any primer on it. So often people come to us and say, "Oh, I'm not sure I want to powder coat my product because I've seen all these bumpers rusting away on Tacomas and stuff." So we make sure we explain to people that the way we do the powder coat is made for winters. And I just had an example a few weeks back in the shop. A customer came back for a winch installing on a bumper that we installed, I think 3 years ago. There was no rust, basically. It was full of salt because he was driving during the winter. No rust on the bumper. So it just comforted me that it's a good choice.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I used to be in manufacturing and tested various stages and various thicknesses and qualities of powder coat, and that sandblasting first, like you said, get rid of all that mill scale and primer it. That is key. Powder coating, a good quality powder coating is good, but the preparation is key.
And what's nice about powder coat, let's say you take your brand new bumper and you just scratch it with a knife. Of course, if you reach a metal underneath, you're going to have rust there pretty much right away, but it's not gonna spread. So you can just fix the area that you just scratched, and you'll be good like that. Of course, you got to take care of your powder coat and make sure if you have any scratches, you can fix them, but it won't spread.
Yep. Now, you guys do offer it as a bare product as well, too.
Yeah. So when people buy bare, I just want to make sure. Sometimes I do want to know what people are going to put on the bumper or the sliders, and I make sure I explain to them like the best steps they can take to prevent rust. Because if they just decide to just spray paint it, I'm just going to tell them, be sure it's going to rust, right?
Exactly. And I understand some people, if they have a white vehicle, they might want to get a powder coated white by one of their local places or something like that. So I do get that a bit. So
of course.
Yeah. But again, if you're going to get it powder coated locally to whatever color you want, just make sure that the prep work has gone into it for sure. Big question that I think that some of our listeners may have is, are you guys going to get into Jeep products?
I don't think we will, because let's say for Armour, there's so many companies that offer stuff. And I think one of the things that kind of threw me off when I started thinking about doing some Jeep stuff is I saw some bumpers on Walmart for $300. And I told myself, like, how can we compete with that without doing like a park product? I think our crowd is more about overlanding. I know the Jeep stuff there's some overlanding, but I think Toyota is part of our DNA in a way. So we're trying to stay in that lane. So
Yep.
I'm not sure we're going to ever go in Jeep for now, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. There's a lot of cheap Amazon specials in regards to offshore bumpers, and it does make it tough to compete. Obviously, you got a good product, and people are going to pay a good price for a good product. But if they don't know the difference, they see a $200 bumper on Amazon, it does make it harder. And that Jeep market is oversaturated for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons why we do Toyota, because in Quebec, in the province of Quebec, there's really no company that makes the Toyota products. There's maybe 2 or 3, but we're trying to make as much as we can for as many products as we can for Toyotas.
And you guys are shipping all over Canada, right? Like, I know you're based just out of Quebec City. If there's a customer in Ontario or on the East Coast or into the West Coast, you guys are shipping all over.
Yeah, so we ship on freight for all the big products. We ship on freight all over Canada, and we ship parcels for the smaller one. And we might eventually have a hub in Toronto, so that it's not a set 100% now, but that's a goal. So for people in close to Toronto, they're going to be able to go pick up their products, so we can, because shipping for big products is so expensive. It's crazy. We basically have to pay a part of it because no one's going to buy a $2,000 bumper and pay $800 of shipping. It's crazy. We're not a big company, so we don't have like distribution deals yet. So that's a big challenge for us, but we're working on it. And
definitely the Ontario market is a very big market, right? So if you can especially work with that. So not to get too political, but with everything that's happening with the world right now, do you see some price increases coming because of tariff stuff, or is all of your steel Canadian-based steel, or how does it all work with you guys?
Yeah, so all of our steel and aluminum is Canadian. It's mostly from Quebec. And I think, I don't want to say we got lucky, but we saw the steel price increase in the last few weeks. Yeah. We basically bought about 25,000 pounds of steel just before the prices went up. And we're good for a solid few months. So for now, we won't increase the price, and we're hoping that everything settles back down at some point in a few months, in the later months. So we'll try to keep our price the same for now. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Hopefully cooler heads prevail and things, work out and go from there. But very happy that you are using Canadian steel and aluminum. And that's, to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons that we started the podcast, was to help promote Canadian companies like yourselves. And when I first started this 2.5 years ago, there's a lot of really great Canadian manufacturers and Canadian retailers across Canada, right, from coast to coast. And there's so many that people have not heard about, like yourselves, for example, or if you hear about something that pertains to you, if you're somebody in the West Coast, you hear about some of the other companies that are making bumpers, or some of the companies that are making other things, but we really want to promote this whole Canadian thing. And that was even before all this shop local and shop Canadian stuff happened recently. But yeah, really happy that you guys are using Canadian steel for sure.
Yeah, we try to keep everything as, I'd say, as local as we can. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we want to sell the Canadian products made by Canadians for Canadians. And I think the fact that we experience the weather, the seasons that we have here, we do live here, so we know what we can do to make sure the products are good for other Canadians. And I think it's just a good time to just stay strong and encourage Canadian business, because Canadian companies have really good products, and we just got to get to know them. And
yeah, everything from yourselves to the guys from Adventure Trail Gear, they make or Freedom Recovery Gear with the ropes. And there's so many wonderful Canadian companies that we as Canadians need to support. So I do want to give a shout out to Six Runner on Instagram, Michael. We've interviewed him a couple times, and he's got a beautiful 4Runner. If you guys haven't checked it out, SIX Runner on Instagram. He has ADD thing where he changes color every year on the thing, I think.
Yeah, he's doing it right now.
Yeah. So he's just, yeah, every year is changing, but absolutely beautiful rig, stunning rig. It was down at the SEMA show this past fall. And I definitely want to check him out. He sent me a message saying, hey, you got to check these guys out at Freeland Industries. I'm working on some product with them to try and showcase their products. So he suggested we reach out to them. Michael, thank you for putting us together. And we love Michael. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. It's super nice of him because we've basically made some bumpers for his truck for him to promote our stuff. And so far it works. It works super nice. The relationship is great. He's a great guy. So it's so much fun working with him, and
Yep.
it makes us meet a lot of people around his area. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you are into the overlanding scene yourselves and you're running the Tundra now. What is it about the overlanding thing that got you hooked on it?
I think the first thing was just sleeping in a car on the beach. That was in Australia. I had a 90 series Prado. It had a 2-inch lift and some lockers. And I made like a wooden bed in the back, and I just found out about beach driving basically. So I found out that you could drive on the beach, stop, sleep, and keep going. So that was the first thing. And then when I got my 4Runner back in a few years ago, we just started, doing some trails, not necessarily overland, but just proper, just hardcore trails that we just broke our trucks and we fixed them back up. And I think the mix of all these two things, it just made sense for me to just make myself a nice truck that I can go explore with. And I think the mix between making a truck, designing the truck, building it, and then using it, see what works, what doesn't work, then mixing this with other passions like kite surfing or mountain biking, it's like a complete package of adventure that just makes you want to leave and then go explore. So I absolutely love overlanding. Yeah.
You brought up a very good point because quite often overlanders, they're not just camping. They're out, they bring the mountain bikes with them, or they're out hiking. Or I think about all the friends that I go and do things with, and yeah, we're mountain biking, we're hiking, we're kayaking. My kayak is on my vehicle all the time. And that's my zen. I enjoy that sometimes more than 4-wheeling or off-roading and just getting out in the water and relaxing. And so I think it's not just overlanding. I think overlanding is such a broad term these days, right?
Yeah. And sometimes people that don't know the difference between off-roading and overlanding, sometimes I just tell them overlanding is just making sure your vehicle is just ready to go anywhere, everywhere, when you want, and then just bring all the stuff that makes you want to go on an adventure. It's a tool, but it's a fun tool.
Exactly. And it's funny with my Tacoma, I feel that I don't need everything and I don't bring everything with me. I've got friends that I go out with and they've got so much gear and they got so much neat stuff, but I'm like, I'm doing it for half the price they are. So overlanding is whatever it means to you. I don't think there's any particular real terminology that you can put with overlanding. Like myself, I can go out and do it with a mildly modified vehicle, but yet there's people going out there with Subarus, and then there's people going out there with Jeep Rubicons on tracks kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
So it is whatever you want to name it.
Yeah. And the process of just building the truck is so much fun that I know my truck's probably overkill for most of the things I do. But if you end up somewhere super remote, you want it to be overkill you don't want to push your truck to the limit. But if I go on a local trail, I can just push my truck up to the limit. And if I break some stuff, I can just go back to the shop and fix it. It's the whole process that is so much fun.
So if somebody come up to you and said, hey, I'm just getting into overlanding, or I'm just getting into 4-wheeling, and I've got, say, for example, a 3rd gen or 4th gen 4Runner, what out of your product would you recommend that I buy first?
I think the most important thing when you start is maybe having some recovery points, a winch, and some sliders, right? I think half of the people that buy rock sliders from us, it's because they have a broken side paddle. So it's so easy to just bang the side of your truck. So I'd recommend rock sliders 100%.
Yep.
And just a small bumper at the front so you can have a winch and you can go out by yourself. and maybe the roof rack if you want to put a rooftop tent. But over that, it's not necessarily necessary, right? It's just, those are going to be just add-ons. But yeah, rock sliders and recovery points for a winch, I think those
Yep.
would be the first great step. Just make sure you don't get stranded somewhere and you just don't break your truck on a small rock, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I would throw in there just after that skid plates.
Yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of trucks come with them, right? But they're like super, super thin. But yeah, skid
Yep.
plate is a good idea. And that's where I think aluminum shines for skid plates, because they can be quite heavy, right? And
Yep.
you're going to bang them up anyway. So I think aluminum and steel, I think for skid plates, aluminum is a great choice. It's not going to rust. It's going to look great because it's aluminum.
Yeah.
And you're not going to put any load on it as like a slider or a bumper. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Myself, I wouldn't go to an aluminum slider. I would stick with the steel slider, but aluminum can be a good option for the skid plates for sure. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, one thing I'd mention is with our Instagram. I think one thing that is interesting with our Instagram is that I try to share as much as we can of the background in the shop of what's going on here. Because I think when people buy overland products, they want to know the company, maybe the people behind them, behind the companies.
Yep.
So what we show is just, sometimes it's super random, but just part of the process, what goes into making your bumper, who are we, these stuff that you'd see if you came at the shop one
Yep.
day and looked at us working. So I think that's an interesting thing about our page. We try to show as much as we can.
I agree. That's one of the things I do like about it, because you're getting in there. It's almost like you got a shop tour, you kind of idea, right? Because you're going through, and it might just be a few bumpers lined up, or it might be somebody welding a bumper or forming a bumper or whatever. But getting that little bit of a shop tour, it's like, hey, these are actually real people doing it. And it's just showing some of the quality and some of the work that goes into building a bumper. Because you can get a product and it looks great, but having been able to see how that is made and some of the stuff that goes into making it, I think is a wonderful thing you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks. And one of the things that I would say is my main expertise, I would say, is designing, is engineering, is designing. So I really love the fact that I can apply engineering principles to overlanding gear. We see a lot of products, as you said, that look good, but we're not necessarily designed to withstand the right loads. And so we try to make it as well engineered as we can, while still making sure it looks good and it lasts a long time.
So no paper napkin drawings.
No, it's all CAD. It's all in the computer. Yeah. All CNC cut.
Yeah. So coming up in 2025, you've mentioned a couple things. You guys are getting into some of the bigger rigs, and you're definitely looking at expanding a little bit into Ontario there as well. What else is coming up in 2025 that you can talk about?
See, first of all, it's our main challenge that we're having to face right now is keeping stocks. And that's something we're working on. So we're bringing in more people. So we're getting more tools, making sure
that's a good problem.
Yeah, it is actually. So it's always a balance between sales and manufacturing. Our main goal is to have every product in stock that people can just buy and receive right away, which is hard for a small company.
Yep.
But yeah, we're just coming out with more products, more stocks as well. If you go on the website, there's probably 25% of the products we sell that are not on the website. So we're working on that to make sure everything is on the website. And yeah, so I think we're going to try to be present as much as we can in local trails and shows and stuff like that. So because we want to meet more people and show our products to more people. That's about it.
How many people are working there now?
So we have quite a small team. I'm the co-owner with my brother, my little brother, Victor. And we have about 5 guys working for us. And not everyone is full-time.
It's still a good crowd though. And there's that fine balance of being in business where you got overhead, you got a shop, you got all this equipment and staff to pay for. And there's a fine line. So I can appreciate that for sure. I've been there before.
Our goal is just, we want to grow organically, right? We don't want to we don't want to grow 300% in 6 months and then end up having too much to do or not enough people. So we're trying to
Yep.
To grow fast, but not too fast. You know what I mean?
Yep. Totally. I get
So
it. I was in a startup for 12 years and right
yeah,
from, I was
yeah,
the first employee. So I totally get that, trying to do that incremental growth, because I've seen so many companies grow so fast and they hire 20 employees and all of a sudden they got to try and balance that whole financing at the same time. So I
yeah.
get
And when
that
you're
for
in the
sure.
manufacturing business, you're still gonna make the product. I could sell 20 bumpers tomorrow, but if I cannot make them, what's the point? So every time we try to grow our sales, we got to grow our manufacturing. So
Yeah.
it's always that fine balance that, oh, do we have too much sales or do we have too much manufacturing capabilities? So and it's a fun challenge. That's what I like to do in the business, growing the sales and the manufacturing, make sure we get the products at the right time. And
Making sure they're going up at the same time,
yeah,
so that you
yeah,
don't have
because
a steep climb on one and a slow climb on the other, or vice
yeah,
versa,
and it's
right?
always one is always in front of the other, and you just gotta balance them. And sometimes you
Yeah.
just turn around and you got more sales and manufacturing capabilities, and then sometimes just the other way around.
Do
It's
you have any business background through the
I don't
schooling and that?
actually. It's no. So I've studied mechanical engineering at university. I don't have a business background,
But you
and
learned quick.
we did learn quick. And then my brother studies law at university. He's a bit younger than me, so he's still at school,
Yep.
but he's doing the business full time. So what we do in the company is completely different. So I couldn't do what my brother does, and my brother couldn't do what I do. So it's perfect in this way because we both need each other, and it makes it so it works super well.
There's something about hopping into a business and learning it fast kind of idea, right? There's also a pride. There's a lot of, scary thoughts, but there's also a lot of pride when you're shipping out, seeing these products going out and or going somewhere and seeing your product on a vehicle. That is
Yeah.
something that just got to make you so proud, right?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite thing is driving on the highway and seeing a Freeland roof rack on a 4Runner and being like, okay, that's one of the product that came out of our shop. No, it's amazing. And I think there's always that 2 or 3 hard years at the beginning of a business where you figure stuff out. It's hard and you don't necessarily know where you're going. I think we're way past that, which is fun. So it's still a lot of work, and it's always going to be a lot of work is the way we want to do stuff. But I think we know we have a nice product. We know we have customers. We know where we're going. So it's a
Yep.
matter of just keep doing it better and more, actually.
I always laugh when people say, "Oh, start your own business. You'll have all kinds of time and you'll make all kinds of money."
Yeah. So yeah, it's give up your 9 to 5 to work 24/7. That's basically what it is.
And that's exactly what every business owner says.
Yep. And I can confirm that's what it is. At least at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's at some point, and I love what I do. So I don't feel like I'm working all the time, but
Yeah. That's a big difference, right? Because a lot of people, like, if you're going to start your own business, I say do something that you enjoy. You don't actually have to love it, because I don't know if I could do 4x4 stuff 24/7. I'm used to be in the 4x4 industry. And I found that at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to do, 4x4 stuff at home, but do something that you do enjoy. So you don't absolutely have to love it, but enjoy it. And because if you do something where you start a business where you don't actually have that enjoyment out of it, it's going to make it so much harder to succeed.
yeah, especially at the beginning when it's going to be hard regardless. So might as well love what you do. So when it's hard, you can remember
Yeah.
that's what you love. And I think I got lucky in that regard because one of my biggest passion is engineering, designing. Like I'm always behind, like if I could do nothing else, I'd probably just be behind a computer designing stuff. So when
Yeah.
I design stuff that I can go try out in the trails or on the beaches, it's amazing. So I think it gave us a good chance of making it work because we love it so much.
And one of the things that I find it with so many good business owners is they usually start with trying to do something where they're trying to solve a problem or they're trying to make something better. For example, with you yourself, you tried to make a good quality bumper for the 4Runner because there was nothing really available in Quebec. or
Right.
Ontario kind of idea. I think with any business, people are going to start any business. You got to look at it as solving a problem or improving on something and making it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as you said, in our case, there were no options around. So I just said, let's make one and see what people say. And we got the feedback from the people. So yeah, it worked. Yeah.
That's great. So once again, talking with Arthur from Freeland Industries, check them out on Instagram. I think is probably the best bet at Freeland_Industries or their website.ca. As we mentioned, all kinds of bumpers, body armor, whether it be skid plates or sliders and bumpers, front and rear. And Arthur brought up a very good point in that some of their product is still not on the website yet, and they are working on that. So if you guys do have an interest in something and you don't see it on their website, by all means, shoot them an email or shoot them a DM and say, hey, I've got this particular vehicle. I don't see anything listed. Is there something in the works? And they may already have a product done up for it. This may not be on the website quite yet. So
Yeah, 100%. So just reach us, DM us, email us, or even call us, and we're going to be able to help you 100%.
So one of the last questions that we ask every guest is, what Canadian would you like to listen to on the 4x4 Canada podcast?
That's a good question. There are two guys that have a YouTube channel that are called the Adventure North. There's a few guys in Quebec. They both have a truck. So one of them has a Tacoma and one of them has a Ranger. And they do YouTube videos and it's super fun. It's like long format YouTube videos of their adventures. It's super cool what they do. They try different things. Let's say I'm going to offload my truck and do a trail, see what's the difference between having my truck fully loaded. And that would be cool to see on the channel. Yeah.
It definitely, we'll have to check them out. And that's something we want to have is more people from Quebec, as well as other provinces as well, too. So to our listeners, if you would love to come on the podcast or somebody that you think would be, that you would like to listen to, by all means, shoot us a DM on Instagram, or there is a page on our website where you can get a hold of us about coming onto the show. This year, we're really going to be trying to concentrate on getting people from other provinces that we have not had a lot of guests from. We've had a lot of guests from BC because BC, and then also a lot of people from Ontario because we love Ontario. And we've actually gotten quite a few East Coasters, the Quebecers and the Saskatchewan folk, and especially up into the Yukon and Northwest Territories. We would love to hear from more of you guys up in that area, or gals from those areas, because there's no sense in having a podcast about four-wheeling and overlanding in Canada if we're dealing mostly with BC and Ontario, right? We want to encompass everybody. We want to hear about the North and the East Coast and Quebec. Quebec is such a beautiful province. You guys have, especially in the fall time, it's gorgeous there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So
there's so much to explore too. There's so many national parks, and we don't know our province that when we think about it, because there's so much to explore.
Yeah. Have you been farther up north, like into the northern part of Quebec?
No, that's one of my goals. I'd like to go as up north as I can, basically just under the Hudson Bay. I think you can reach those spots. So that would be a goal of mine, to just drive up north and see what's there.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of looking into it and a little bit of looking at the maps and daydreaming about it. And I think you can get a fair ways up there. It's going to be beautiful no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? So
there's a road that takes you up to the bottom of the Hudson Bay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how easy or hard it is, but I know you can do it. So that would be a goal of mine.
Where is somewhere else in Canada that you'd love to explore?
Also, definitely BC. So I've been to BC, but not in an overland truck. So at some point, I'd just like to drive and do. I don't even know where I'd go. I just know there's so much to explore. I haven't been there, so I just want to show up there with all my gear and see where it leads me. Because it's even at Vancouver Island, I've been there, but I haven't been there exploring like overlanding. So that would be something I want to do 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're quite lucky where we do have the ocean and we have the mountains. We also have grasslands and everything in between. So it is.
And I'm a big fan of mountain biking. If I can do some mountain biking and overlanding over there, it would be amazing. And I can meet, it's such a big country. You're not going to meet your West Coast customers if you don't go there. So I
Yep.
probably like to meet up with some of them.
Here in Kamloops, we have some really cool, pretty much everywhere in BC has got some great mountain biking. Kamloops has some great mountain biking. We've had 2 local mountain bikers that have been on the Red Bull team. And over
nice.
the years, over the course of 20 years, kind of idea. So there's a lot of talent pulling out of Kamloops and a lot of national champions and stuff like that. And every town, it seems, has some great mountain biking trails.
Yeah, I want to check them out. And it's getting better and better. I used to do BMX back in the days, and enduro and mountain bike trails were not that popular, but there's a lot of new tracks around here that are getting built by guys from BC that are coming over, building them, and then going back. So it's a nice sport.
One thing we're starting to see here in BC is a lot of First Nations and Indigenous communities are working with professional mountain bike trail builders, and they're learning how to build good good trails. And so they are, they've got some really, just an hour north of here, they've got some great trails. And I know they're doing some of the same stuff in the Kootenays with some of the First Nations, and where the First Nation groups are learning how to build proper trails. And because, you can go out with a shovel and build some trails, but there's
it's such a good sport for nature preservation and just exploring. It's such a respectful sport for nature. So it works out, right?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see them working together with the First Nations and Indigenous groups and expanding, because there's just so much wonderful land all across Canada for mountain biking. So I could go on a whole nother hour about mountain biking if I wanted to.
Yeah, you'll have to do a new podcast for that.
Yeah, they've even got good trails for old fat guys like me. So all you old fat guys like me, you can do it. So once again, we can totally get off topic here, but once again, we're with Arthur from Freeland Industries, a Quebec-based company. They make bumpers, sliders, skid plates, roof racks, etc. And they ship all over Canada. They've got a good customer base in Quebec and Ontario. And really looking forward to seeing what you guys got coming up for the full-size stuff in the next year or so.
Thanks for having us. It was a pleasure. Hoping to see you in the future at some point.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely keep in touch. Again, check them out at Freeland Industries on Facebook and Instagram and their website. And if you don't see something that you are interested in or for your vehicle, by all means, give them a shout and they'll see what they can do for you if they already have it or if they can make it for you. But thanks for joining tonight, Arthur. Really appreciate you staying up late and spending some time with us.
Thanks. I appreciate it too, man.